And to details, Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli announced on Thursday the launch of the National Strategy for Climate Change COP27 on Thursday. In his address during the conference, Madbouli reiterated that the national strategy aims at achieving sustainable growth and reducing emissions effect. The Premier also said that the state has taken several measures for adapting and easing effects of climate change. The details. Egypt launched on Thursday the National Strategy for Climate Change 2050, 5 months ahead of the country hosting of the UN Climate Change Conference 2022, COP27, in the Red Sea city of Sharm el-Sheikh. The announcement was made during a ceremony attended by a handful of high-ranking officials, including Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli and Environment Minister Yasmin Fuad, in addition to a number of United Nations officials, ambassadors and representatives of international missions and organizations. The strategy is based on 5 main pillars, with each one containing several sub-goals. The project aims to effectively address the repercussions of climate change in a way that contributes to improving the quality of life for Egyptians, achieving sustainable development, sustainable economic growth, and preserving natural resources and ecosystems. Speaking at the launch, Prime Minister Madbouli said Egypt only produces 0.6% of the world's emissions and yet is particularly vulnerable to climate change across several sectors, including its coasts, agriculture and water resources, health, population and infrastructure. Madbouli added that Egypt has always been committed to combating climate change, signing on to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, the Kyoto Protocol and the Paris Agreement. The country is also keen to submit the required periodic reports and reports related to the global challenge. Egypt adopted its first strategy for climate change in 2011 and its low-emission development strategy, LEDS, in 2018. The new strategy has been prepared upon a request from the National Council for Climate Change. The Prime Minister noted that Egypt will spare no effort through its presidency of COP27 to relentlessly seek to move from the stage of commitments and pledges declared by states to the stage of actual implementation of quick and tangible measures. The Red Sea city of Sharm el-Sheikh in South Sinai is bracing for the hosting of COP27, embarking on several environmentally friendly projects, including increasing green spaces, promoting electric vehicles to lower carbon emissions, and banning single-use plastic bags from its beaches. Within the framework of the Interior Ministry's efforts to chase terrorist elements that target armed forces and policemen and undermine the state installations, security forces in Al Tulul area in northern Sinai managed to file a suicide terrorist attack against members of a checkpoint on Thursday. An exchange of fire took place between the security forces and terrorists, which resulted in the killing of a terrorist and the confiscation of an explosive belt, 2 hand bombs, an automatic gun machine and 112 bullets. The Interior Ministry announced that legal procedures had taken place, adding that the state higher security prosecution would tackle the investigation. Armed Forces Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Osama Askar witnessed on Thursday exercises of the Commander's Forces units that aim at raising the level of fighting efficiency. Askar hailed the high level of readiness and high spirit of the troops. Askar stressed that the units must be attentive and preserve the highest level of efficiency and fighting capability which is necessary for the special work of commanders. Within the frameworks of the Interior Ministry's efforts to detect fraud, hard currency trade and money laundering crimes, security forces in Gharbiya, Ismailia and Red Sea governorates arrested 4 criminals for deceiving citizens and seizing around £9 million. Several criminals were arrested in Qalyubiya and the Qahliya governorates for stealing public money. In Suhag, a driver in a public company stole 60 tons of sugar and sold it in the black market. And to details, the Central Bank of Egypt CBE raised interest rates on deposits and loans by 2%. The CBE raised the deposit rate to 11.25% and the lending rate to 12.25%. This is the second time in less than 2 months for the CBE to raise key interest rates. Egypt's stock market indices fluctuated on Thursday, being bolstered by purchasing operations by Arab and foreign investors. The main EGX 30 index soared 0.79%. The small and medium EGX 70 index retreated 0.64%. The more expanded EGX 100 index lost 0.54%. The overall transactions and dealings within the session reached £1.7 billion.